Amogus.
Alright, so before we begin, you first have to understand what the word dynamic means exactly. A quick Google search tells us that it's one that depicts movement in the subject rather than a static figure, blah 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 blah. To put it simply, sexy poses. When you take a look at other beginner animator projects and compare them to a more experienced animator, it's not so hard to tell that the animation feels rigid or unrealistic. I mean, stick figure animation isn't exactly realistic to begin with, but it just looks better. Well, one way to make your animation come to life is by working on your pose dynamics. Here's a quick challenge. See if you can differentiate between the two. Which one do you think is a more dynamic pose here? If you pick the one on the right, give yourself a cookie. If you pick the one on the left, then you can just go sit in the corner and cry. Notice how stylized this pose looks compared to the first one. Things like this would literally, and I cannot stress this enough, literally level up your entire animation as a whole. Don't believe me? Take a look for yourself. And just like that, a terrible animation made less terrible. Great way to understand pose dynamism, which is a real word by the way, is by studying references. Animators like Zero Freak, Naf, Ziki, they all make great examples of such references. I 100% recommend checking them out. They make great use of the reference that you see now. A piece of advice that I could give is to try and think of real life poses, then exaggerate them. For example, real pose, exaggerated. Real pose, exaggerated. Real pose, exaggerated. Because at the end of the day, animation, in a sense, especially stick figure, is an exaggeration of reality. One big mistake to avoid is the lack of consistency between the poses. What I mean by this is, for example, you make a really smoking hot pose.
Don't let your kids watch it!
In one frame, and in the next frame, it just looks like absolute shit. Try to avoid inconsistencies throughout your workflow and make sure every pose in every frame is looking clean. Alright, so here's a quick summary of what you've learned so far. If you keep all this in mind while you animate, I guarantee with 100% certainty that your animation will go from shit to slightly less shit. The project files in this video, along with each and every single reference plus more, can be found in my Discord server with the link in the description, and you can have access to all these assets including the references for free. So make sure to check it out, learn a thing or two.